All right. We are recording. All right. The first thing I want to do before I get started is introduce Mary Mango. Mary, are you in here?
I am
All right.
here.
I think Mary and I will be going through the presentation together. And I think I did see Gabby and Paul. So
Yes.
y'all want to say hi, you can say hi as well.
Hi, everybody. Gabby here.
Hi everyone, Paul Murphy, Associate Dean in Seoul.
All right, awesome. And so that being said, would everybody be able to just mute their microphones right now for me, please? This is our office right now. Hopefully we will be adding staff very shortly, but this is our office. Myself, Mary, Paul, and Gabby. So any questions right now for the time being will be geared towards us, and we will be doing our best to help all 500 clubs that we have here. Okay, let's get started. That was a very long introduction. I'm a little long-winded sometimes. My apologies. All right, today we just want to make sure that I know there are a lot of new group treasurers and group officers, and we want to make sure that we just kind of get everybody on board with the general systems and practices here at MIT and with our groups in Seoul. So we're just going to go over really quickly. We're going to breeze through. We will be having very specific presentations later, workshops on very specific topics. But right now, we're going to give you an entire an overall view of everything. So we're going to start with getting access to your accounts, understanding the funding types. We're going to breeze through funding cycles. How do you spend funds? We'll talk a little bit about the MIT systems and try and cover some important documents and forms that you should know about. Just always want to remind you, check your Engage. We're going to put announcements there. We want that to be your home base. So we want you to make sure that you have your rosters updated. Any form, we're going to either have that form in there, or there will be a link to a form or somewhere else where you may need to go. So we're going to use that as the home base. So if you're looking for something from Seoul, start in Engage and work your way out. So you're going to find everything in there. And for your account numbers, you're going to be able to start to register events. We're going to use that hopefully as our home base. So now you've been elected to a position. Maybe you're a financial signatory. How do you get access? What you want to do, and if I can ask you all to open up your Engage, if you're able to get in. I know some of you may have had some issues if you have graduated and you're going to start your grad year or something else. But if you currently have access, please open up Engage. If you don't have access to your financial accounts, we want you to open up Engage, follow that link. You can use the QR code or you can type in the link, follow that, and request access to your accounts. Now, this allows you to see all of your financials for your club. So any transactions that you may have, anything that you want to do, if you want to spend money, you got to see how much money you have first, right? So anything that you want to do is going to be in here. So you want to make sure that you have access to be able to see your account. In order to have access to your account, you have to be an officer of the club. You have to be a financial signatory or somebody of some role. So you want to make sure that when you go into your Engage profile, your Engage group, you want to make sure that you're listed as an officer. And if you're not listed as an officer And if you cannot get in as an officer, it's going to take the previous officers to go in and click you as an officer and add you as an officer. If everybody has graduated, and you don't know who's the officer of the group, or they have gone, so you don't have access, let us know. We'll add you and give you the ability to add everybody else. You want to go in, select your position. And these these arrows are a little off, but that's okay. You want to go in, select your position up here. And then right here, you want to be add yourself as an officer or add somebody else as an officer. So my arrows are a little off. I'm sorry about that. And then this one should be right down here. And it'll give you an administrative role. So if you click this link right here to give you an administrative role, you can add yourself as a financial signatory, a space signatory, a travel signatory. These are all the different roles that we look at to make sure that you're able to make certain decisions on your student organization. So if you're not able to be added as one of these positions, we're not going to allow you to make those decisions. So if you want to spend money, you're not a financial signatory, you can't approve certain things. So we just do this as a security precaution for your groups and for so that somebody doesn't go in rogue and spend money that they're not supposed to spend. So we want to make sure everybody is on the same page in your group. So make sure you add those positions. And before you leave office, so at the end of the year when you have elections, make sure you click the new officers so that they have access the following year, so that they don't end up, having to beg us for access. Right here, I will throw it over to Mary to talk about the different types of accounts, of cost objects.
Hi, folks. Okay, so I know sometimes it gets kind of the clubs that have funding accounts, it gets a little kind of crazy because you don't really understand what is the funding account as opposed to your main account. When you're FinBoard funded, you have 3 accounts. You have your main account, which is like your checking account. GSC, you guys only have 2 accounts. You have your main account and then your GSC funding account. Whereas FinBoard, for funding accounts, you actually have 2 funding accounts. One is the F-Series funding account, and one is the S-Series funding account. The F-Series funding account handles any expenses that are dated July 1st until 12/31. So it's your summer and your fall. So whenever you're trying to get reimbursements or pay for something, you would use your F-Series cost objects during that time. Now remember, those expenses should be tied to the event that you receive the money from FinBoard. All right, so it's not just like your everyday, that you would use your main account. Like when you're buying pizza for your meeting, you would use your main account. Whereas your funding account, and it's the same thing with GSC. GSC only has 1 funding cost object and you use that for each cycle. All right, but you only can use it for your summer cycle, anything dated between 7/1 and 9/30. And then you have a cutoff time in order to be able to submit those expenses. Now CSC, you guys have your main account and then you have your CSC account. And it's just wherever the money is sitting, that's the cost object that you're going to use when you process your RFPs, when you process that rec to, create a PO. So those are your different account numbers. Now the funding cycle, I had mentioned this. Now you only have a finite amount of time in order to spend or use those funds that you got from GSC or from CSC or from FinBoard. All right. So you've got your summer cycle. As you can see, the date is 7/1 to 9/30. Your fall cycle starts 10/1 to 12/31. Winter is 1/1 to 3/31. And then the spring cycle is 4/1 to 6/30. Okay. So as I said, one cost object for GSC funding and 2 for Finboard funding, F series and S series. You have for Finboard, you have 15 days after 12/31 to submit any expenses between 7/1 and 12/31. Whereas GSC, you guys only have that one funding cycle. So your summer cycle ends 9/30. You only have till 10/15 to submit any expenses that goes with that event that is dated 7/1 to 9/30. Because once 10/16 hits, the funds are gone. All right. Also remember, we ran into a lot of these problems. 6/30, there is no 15-day window. None whatsoever for GSC and Finboard. Once 6/30 hits, the funds are no longer available. So just keep that in mind. We had a bunch of clubs that were not aware of that stipulation and it caused a lot of problems. So I just want to be adamant about this. You have to get the funds in by 6/30. So those are the ideas of the funding cycle timeframe. Now I'll bounce it back to Ramon.
We talked about your accounts, and we talked about having money and knowing that you have money so you can spend it. We should talk about how do you receive money. We have several ways where you can receive money. You can receive money through an outside source. You can receive money through a department where they transfer funds into your account. You can receive money through membership payments, et cetera, et cetera. But how do they actually pay you? So there's two main ways that we ask that you give our information out for somebody to pay your club. The main thing, the easiest way that we think is for any company or any person or any outside entity to wire funds to us. It reduces the paper. It's just a cleaner, quicker way. I will, again, be sending this out, so there's no need to rush to write this down or screenshot it. So I'll send this out to everybody. But this is the main way for us to receive wire funds. One important detail that I will add, it's highlighted in yellow. And you all do a good job of actually telling companies and whatnot that they should write down the name of your club and your account number. However, companies have certain ways that they pay things and they don't listen, which is fine. What happens is, MIT receives tons of money from everywhere. And what's going to happen if the company doesn't mark the money that they send correctly, it will sit within the cashier's office until somebody claims it. So it's important to kind of stay on top of these companies. Make sure you know when they send the money, how much they're sending. And if they have any confirmations that you can send, it helps me find it a lot easier, and it helps the cashier's office identify it a lot easier. So please just stay on top of the companies. Again, if they don't send the correct information, we'll find it still, but make sure that they send you the confirmation and the date that they sent the funds. You can also have the old trusty check. Checks are a little bit easier because they can send a check, again, have them make sure they put the correct information, because a check will sit, and unlike a wire, a check goes bad in about 90 days in most cases. So if we're not able to identify the check within 90 days, we might have to void it. So you don't want to have to ask a company or a person to send money over. You want to kind of cash it the first time and get it over with. Again, if they could supply the check number and the date around the time that they sent it, we can do it. The cashier's office does a great job of identifying those funds. And then cash. If you're holding cash, there is a process that you can come into the office, and I won't go through all the steps, but you come into the office and get a deposit slip and take that down to the Bank of America yourself. And then we'll have the steps of what you do after that. But cash is a little bit more difficult just because we used to have the Bank of America downstairs, and we don't anymore in this building. So unfortunately, it's one of those things that we're lost in the pandemic, but we're working on different ways to assist you in depositing cash. And then, so you get this money from somewhere. So now how do you spend it? So there are three main ways that you use to purchase things or spend your money. RFPs, or requests for payment. Now you can have, there are three different types of RFPs, and we'll go through each different type of RFP. The type where you pay a vendor directly, the type where it's a reimbursement for yourself, or the type where it's a reimbursement for somebody else. And all RFPs have to be under $5,000. Now, if you have something over $5,000, that's when you want to go to Coupa or Buy to Pay. As it says, this is the Institute's procurement system, and we use it to purchase anything from needles, hairpins, to, I don't know, big lab equipment. So this goes from $2 to $1 million. It goes, it's overall used to purchase everything. And then finally, the control value card, which some of you know about. Every group is entitled to, or I shouldn't say entitled, but every group can apply for a control value card. It is for small purchases. The limit on the card is $3,000, and that's not the daily limit, that's not the weekly limit or the monthly limit. That is the limit. So it's basically a declining value card. We can push the value back up, but we try to limit it to 3,000. And then I'll toss it over to Mary for a little bit of RFP tutelage.
Unmute myself, that would be good. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about RFPs. I believe our slides are looking at RFP reimbursement. So this is where RFP lives. All right, it's in Atlas. And as you can see, there is the managed reimbursement. And then you're looking, and that's where the payment taxable lives, and the reimbursement, which is a general reimbursement. And then underneath it says, under my reimbursement, says request a reimbursement for me. So if you're doing an RFP for yourself, you would click there. But if you're doing it for one of your members, you would want to do the general reimbursement, which is under managed reimbursements, the last choice. And then if you're paying a person for services provided or a vendor, then you would want to do the payment taxable, which is the third choice under managed reimbursements. So I just wanted to let you know that it doesn't live in Engage. Processing RFPs live in Atlas. So you are—
Mary, just to jump in, I would encourage everybody to open up Atlas right now and open up the RFP portal.
So, all right, so you're going to do a reimbursement for yourself. So you're going under my reimbursements, you're going to click request a reimbursement for me. Or if you wanted to do it for someone else, and it's going to be very similar. All three, the payment, the reimbursement, my reimbursement, the steps are all the same, except for maybe the first one. It's a little different for the first, but so say we're going to do a reimbursement for someone else. So we click just a general reimbursement. So then you're going to click, it's going to come up this screen. If it's for you, you'd put your name in. It's going to say your name at the bottom where it says no results found. You would click your name and it would just fill in all your information. If it's somebody that you're doing it for somebody else, you could put in, if they're not in the system already, it's going to come up results not found, continue, and that's perfectly fine. So you would just click that. Okay. This is what's going to come up. It's going to fill in the John Doe information, and you've done it, and it says it's a reimbursement. But if he's not in the system, it's going to ask for mailing instructions. So you would just fill that in. If that person who is the payee listed, John Doe, if he is in the system, none of the information is going to pop up. It's already in there. So the next thing. All right. So these are important things to do. So you've establish who the payee is, you put the, mailing in information in or not, whatever the system asks. Cost object, extremely important. Before it hits my inbox, that has to be filled in. The cost object is your club's account number. And remember, I was talking about the main account as opposed to your funding account. Wherever the funds live that are for this expense that you're reimbursing someone for, you want to put that cost object there or account number. Those two words are interchangeable in this system, okay? So you definitely want to put the cost object in there. You want to fill out the date of service. So the GL account, not important. I can take care of that if you don't know what that even means, and that's perfectly fine. But cost object, date of service, and amount are those three that you are you have to put that stuff in there for it to come to me and for me to review. Explanation also, detailed explanation, not food. You got to tell me food for what? Food for what meeting, food for what event. You've got to give me details on what. I don't need a book, but I need a lot of information. I need as much information as you can provide what this expense means. Okay. So the next slide, then you would click save to continue. All right, so you filled out the payee information, you filled out the cost object and the amount and the date. You've given me a great explanation. Now you're going to click save and continue, because this is where you're going to attach your receipts. Highly recommend PDF format. PDF, I can always open PDF formats. When you get funky formats and it gets kind of crazy, try to save everything as a PDF. You would attach it at this point. And then once you've attached the receipt. Now, also, if you have 5 receipts, 5 different expenses, you want to do 5 different line items. You don't want to do one line item, lump everything in there, attach all the receipts, and it'll make me nuts. Do a separate line item for each expense, so it's easier for me to audit, okay? Just to give you a heads up about that. All right, so your next step, now you've attached your receipts. Your next step is you're going to send it. Now, if this is an RFP for yourself, and even if you're a financial signatory, but you are the payee on it, you have to send it to a financial signatory in the club. Not someone else's club, but for your club, all right? This is a payee cannot approve their own expenses, all right? If you've created the RFP and you're not listed anywhere, and it's not for yourself, but you're not listed anywhere as a financial signatory, not in the data warehouse, not in Engage, nowhere, you need to send it to a financial signatory. They have to look at it, review it, and then forward it to me. But if you are a financial signatory, not the payee, you can send it directly to me. Okay, so those are the 3 things. If you're the payee, even if you're a financial signatory, send it to a financial signatory for the club. If you're not listed as a financial signatory, great, you created it. You have to send it to a financial signatory before it comes to me. If you're a financial signatory, not the payee, you can send it directly to me. All right. Now we're, like Ramon said, we're going to be sending you all this stuff. So we're throwing so much at you. All right. Necessary receipts for reimbursement. Proof of payment, extremely important. Need to see how this expense was paid. I don't need the credit card number. I don't need all that. I just need something that says CC, Visa, zero balance, just something to show that the reason why I am paying this person back their money. Itemized receipt. You need to have a list of what was purchased. You need to see it. I get nosy. I like to see, but especially when it comes to food and you've eaten at the bar and grill, you've got to show us what you did. Sales tax, get rid of that sales tax when you're doing your total. Tip can be reimbursed, shipping can be reimbursed, but no sales tax. All right, so we need to see what was purchased, a subtotal, what was the tip, what was the delivery. That's fine, you can get reimbursed for that, but if there's any sales tax in there, we got to get rid of it. All right, but itemized receipt, extremely important. And then, as I said, make sure you forward the RFP to a financial signatory for the club, and payees cannot approve their own reimbursements.
One thing, Mary, one thing you touched on and you kept saying was financial signatory. And I just want to stress to everybody how important it is to make sure that you have financial signatories listed, because those folks will be the ones approving things in the RFP system, as well as in buy to pay.
Okay.
So if you don't, then we will not approve it,
Right.
period.
And one other thing, I would highly, highly recommend you have no less than 3 financial signatories in a club. You don't want to have just one. The treasurer and even if the treasurer is just listed as a treasurer and they're not listed as a financial signatory, they cannot approve, they cannot send an RFP to me to review and approve. You have to be listed in Engage definitely as a financial signatory. But I would go with 3, because if 2 of them, go away, you at least have a third one. So I would have, you don't want everybody to be a financial signatory, because then it can get kind of crazy. And then all of a sudden everybody's, approving this and that left and right. You want to have a minimum of 3 financial signatories, people that you can trust that will review RFPs or buy to pay, that expense or that payment is a valid payment or expense for the group. And the necessary information is there and the cost object is listed, and then it's sent forward to me. So that's what you want to keep in mind. I would highly, highly recommend at least 3.
And I think we are probably at the midpoint in our presentation. This is the point where we start getting a few folks melt off. So I want to say this before the melt: no gift cards. Under no circumstances can you purchase gift cards. If you buy gift cards with your own money, unfortunately, you will not be reimbursed. So you will be stuck holding the bag with these gift cards. That is just the MIT rule. We cannot change that. And we have to fight really hard for you to get your money back if we try and fight for it. So please do not purchase gift cards. Gift cards, anything to restaurants, anything like that. Please don't do it.
Nope. Oh, all right. So I'll talk about Grubhub. All right. So Ramon was kind enough. He put the QR code on there. There's a form on there. So say your club, now this all lives in Engage. So you would go into Engage. The main page, you could go in surveys and forms and put in Grub in the search bar, and it'll pull up this Grubhub application. The person who applies for it or who requests the Grubhub has to be a financial signatory. There you go again, financial signatories. You guys are aces. And you just follow the prompts. This would be if you're having a meeting and you want to order pizza. One person can do the ordering, or you can give credits to different people in your club. And you just follow the prompts. You fill out a Excel spreadsheet that's there, and you submit. And you need to put, you have to put the first name, last name, phone number, email address. Phone number not so much important, but email address definitely important. And don't fix the form. The form's there. You can't, don't add your little stuff in there. Those are the most important things to put in this form. So, but it saves you guys from coming out of pocket. You guys can wear $15. Each person is allowed $15 as a credit for Grubhub. Or you could have someone have $100 and they're the one that call in the order. So it helps, take the burden off you a little bit. And you don't have to worry about doing RFPs to reimburse those people for the $15. You can just do it through this Grubhub. But I would you have to get it in at least 3 days before the date of the event, because, and especially as the year goes on, it gets busy, and I'm the one who processes all these things. So in addition to all the RFPs, so I need the information as soon as possible. So, but remember, financial signatories, do the QR code, go to Engage, get your event on Friday. So you send the information to me on Tuesday, account number, just follow the prompts and fill out the spreadsheet, and you're good to go.
All right, let's move right on to Coupa. or buy to pay. So as I explained before, really quickly, the buy to pay system is the Institute's procurement system. So we use this to purchase, like I said, everything from small items to really big items all over the Institute. And I will go through step by step. So again, what I would ask everybody to do is if you can go over to your computer and type in MIT.coupahost, COUPAHOST.com, MIT.coupahost.com. Just type it into your computer really quickly. Everybody, if you have your certificates on, everybody should go right in and see your name right in the top right-hand corner. And basically, again, buy to pay is a system where you go in, you create a requisition. Mary or I will approve the requisition. That will then go to the Vice President's Office of Finance, and they will generate a purchase order. And a purchase order is basically an agreement to pay. So we send a purchase order, or you send a purchase order to that company that you're trying to purchase something from, saying that, hey, we want to purchase X, Y, and Z, and here's our agreement that we promise to pay you. You get your item, and then what you want to do is submit your invoice from that company to invoices@mit.coupahost.com. And then I'll go through that again later, but this is basically from step 1 to step 3. This is how you order something through Coupa and pay those companies. Again, don't rush to write this down. This is step by step how you purchase something in Coupa. Don't break out your pencils and pads. Don't start typing furiously. I'm going to send this out after the session. So what you see, so if you went in and typed in MIT.coupahost.com, you'll see your name is up here. You'll see a little fountain pen that we're going to be using. You should see this should be empty, but I have a few things in mind. Unless you've already used Coupa before, then you should see something in here. And then you see a list of company tiles here, including Amazon. That's the one I want to point out to you. So in order to get started, I'd ask everybody to press the fountain pen right here. Once you press the fountain pen, you should see a screen pop up like this. And then why don't you just go ahead and type something in, whether it's apparel, food, anything. What you'll want to do is then that'll just a description of the item for yourself. You want to type in your supplier. So that's the company that you're going through. If the company has been used by anybody on MIT campus in the last 18 months, the name will pop up. If not, then you'll get a different screen, which I'll go through in a second. The commodity is just the type of purchase it is. So if you're buying swag like clothes, you can see the commodity through it'd be like apparel. Or if you're renting a venue, let's say a hotel, they have a venue commodity type. So you type in the supplier, the commodity, and the price. And you hit add to cart. Now, like I said, if your supplier is not in the system, if it is in the system, you'll see something pop up and you'll click it and you'll go forward. If it's not in the system, here's what you'll get right here. You'll get onboard new supplier. So this means that nobody has used this company within the last 18 months. So what you want to do is hit onboard new supplier if this pops up for you, which will take you here. And then basically this is MIT's way of contacting the vendor. So when we make purchases from vendors, we need their W-9 information. We just need to know how to pay them. If they're a legitimate company, we need to know all of the information for the company. So you can request a new supplier. You want to do, generally it'll be a domestic supplier, but often it's a international supplier as well. It doesn't matter. the process is the same. You want to make sure you have the name of the company, the name of the contact person, and it's best to have a live person. Sometimes the customer service contacts, the general emails of customer service, sometimes those go to so many people and then nobody fills it out. Sometimes it's just so many people it goes to, and then everybody thinks somebody else is gonna answer that email. So I would always suggest that you have the name of a live person and the email of a live person. If you have the phone number, that's great. And because if they cannot get in touch with the person or a company, they will call them. So this general information, just so we can get to those companies. Now, after you do that, what you want to do is go ahead and review your cart. So if I go back a little bit, remember you're adding your purchase, your potential purchase to the cart. So once you get to the cart, you'll pull up on this. So everything you're doing here, you want to make sure that you just kind of type in your information. And here, if you're shipping something to your on-campus location and it's not in the system, you want to start typing it in. If you're sending it to a lab or something like that, it'll be in here. If you're sending it to a dorm, it's not going to be in here. So you want to put ship to alternative. So you want to add ship to alternative. And then in the box down here, comments to notes to the buyer, you want to make sure that you put in your address. You should also put your address in the comment section. So I always ask everybody to do it twice. If there's any documentation you have from, sorry about that. If there's any documentation you have from the company, add that file here. Make sure you click the attachments included box. If there's a contract to be reviewed, make sure you click that box as well. Down towards the bottom of the screen, this is the bottom of the screen from above, you want to make sure you tell what account it's going into. So once you click the magnifying glass here, you should see your purchase information here. If there's anything incorrect, you can edit it. But everything that you entered should be right here. And then you want to click the magnifying glass and add your cost object. Once you go through that, you just hit submit and that'll come right over to us for our approval. And again, like Mary mentioned before, if you are not the financial signatory, you can send it to the financial signatory and they will send it to us. The third way of purchasing things is a control value card. Now, the control value card is very limited. It's for small purchases. It's not for big purchases. It's not for travel. You have just kind of last minute items. You have $3,000 per year, period. If there's an event going on, you can touch base with me and maybe we can add some money to it. But the limit of this card is $3,000. And again, I can't stress enough, it's not meant for big purchases. Buy to pay is meant for big purchases. This is meant for small, quick emergency purchases. It's an application process. You fill out the application and then you send that on and then we'll review it and try and send that through. There has been some delay in the control value cards this summer, and I'm still working on those, but if you've already have one in the system, it should be coming soon. But if you are looking for a new one, you can go ahead and fill that out. Make sure you follow the procedures and make sure nobody else in your club has a card currently. Also, there are a few clubs who do employment. So now there are two different types of employment. You can employ a non-MIT student, which can be anybody, which can be a stranger off the streets, or it can be somebody who works at MIT, a professor. It could be a student from a different school. Either way, just a non-MIT person, student, I should say. And then there's an MIT student. So there's just two different types of employment. The employment agreement for a non-MIT student is in Engage, and there's a link to that. The student employment is on the Student Life website, and this is the link for it. Again, I will send this out so you don't have to write the link down. Here's what the student payroll form looks like. Anytime any student does, if you want to pay a student, doesn't matter if it's a one-time thing, doesn't matter if they're working for the entire year, you have to go through this process. So you have to collect all the information from the student as well as the information from the actual job that they are doing. So the thing you want to get from the student obviously is their ID number. Everybody should have a supervisor that is not a student. If you do not, please contact us, let us know, but you have to let me know, because if I don't know that I'm supposed to make sure a student is getting paid, I will not pay that student, because I'm very particular. There's a long list in my payment inbox, so I don't know who I'm supposed to pay unless you tell me. But I would prefer that you get somebody else to be a supervisor so they can look very closely at it. Basically, and I think the big question on this is that, yes, you do have to set up an hourly wage. Please try and cap payment, the hourly rate at $25 an hour. Please don't pay anybody $100 an hour. I understand if they did something and you want to pay them $100, but they only work for an hour, you still have to do $25 and pay them for 4 hours. And that's okay. Here's the link to the employment agreement form for a non-MIT student. And again, you can wait for the link for this. But what I would say is that you make an agreement with that coach prior to anything that you're doing, prior to filling this out, anything. Just make sure that you understand and they understand that the money is going to be the same. So I just don't want a coach to understand that he's going to get paid $1,000, but you only thought you were going to pay him $500. Please be on the same page with the coach before you fill this form out. And then I will kick it back to Mary for some travel.
Okay, so travel. Everyone's traveling again, which is very exciting, very, very exciting. But there's a lot of processes involved in when you're traveling now. And a lot of you who are not involved in your clubs probably when traveling was the thing to do. So registering travel, that's the first thing you need to do, really. Register the travel. If you're doing domestic, and I'm talking travel as in, going down the Cape, you're going up to New Hampshire, you're going outside the 25-mile bubble of MIT. You need to register it and engage. You either, if it's international, you need to register it 3 weeks prior. It has to be approved. If you're going domestic, you're going to New Hampshire, your club is doing your annual retreat, you got to register it 2 weeks before and approved. All right. So when those, reimbursements start rolling in, I check. I look to see, is your trip registered? And if it's not, then we have to stop and it becomes a pain. So registering, number one thing. And if you're club sport, you want to go into Do Sports Easy. You need to register it there. All these, the trips that you guys take for your club sports, they have to be registered through Do Sports Easy. For any rental, flight, or lodging, Ramon Downs has a travel card. He can actually do that stuff for you. So you can always contact him. So if your club doesn't want to come out of pocket for the flight, for the hotel, for the car, whatever, you can contact him and he can help you out. So the next step, all right, so now you've registered it, you're great. Now the trip is over. So now you need to be reimbursed because that's what happens. You do not get paid ahead of time for any travel that you do. If you have paid for, say, just a restaurant, like you guys all went out one night during the trip, or you bought groceries for the trip, and that's the only thing that you did in the group, you could process that through the RFP system. But if you want to be paid for your flight as well as the groceries, or that rental car as well as the groceries, you would want to do it through Concur. So you need to log into Concur. It's a different system. It's not an Atlas, it's not an Engage, it's a whole different thing. And this is what it looks like. This is the first page. So when you log in, you're going to see this, and it should have your name in there. And then you would start a report. And I believe we'll be sending out the thing. Okay, so in addition, when you're reimbursing yourself, or you're processing this reimbursement for yourself, in addition to the receipts, you also need to have this form. It's a travel signatory authorization form that needs to be filled out by the travel signatory in your group. So in addition to a financial signatory, you also want to have somebody be the travel signatory. So you need to have that person fill out the name who's being reimbursed, so who the traveler is, the report key, not so much. We're going to redo this. We're going to get rid of that because don't worry about the report key. That's not end all be all if you don't put that in there. The total amount approved, extremely important, you travel signatory people. You need to let me know how much you want to reimburse this person, because you guys, the club might have capped it at like $500, even though they paid $700. If that form says $500 and the Concur report says $700, I can't do anything until that's fixed. So, but anyway, so that's what you want to do. The how much it was, cost object, important, put cost object in there, and then the financial signatory signs it. And that is uploaded along with all the other receipts.
All right. Now we're coming up towards the end, but there are plenty of different ways for clubs to find funding. Sometimes, we don't have a lot of money, but sometimes we may be able to help out towards something that benefits the entire institute. So we have our Soul Opportunity Fund, where if you're doing an event or something that is geared towards or benefits the entire institute, we'd be willing to help a little bit. Like I said, very small dollars, but the majority of our clubs find money from sponsorships, outside companies, alumni donations. If your club has a lot of alumni, if your club can charge dues, some clubs have dues. If you're attached to a department, sometimes the departments can help fund any event or anything that you wish to do. There are other parts of the institute as well that are willing to fund certain things. So we will be coming back with the Arthur Smith Fund this year, the COOP Public Service Grants, Council for the Arts, anything related towards arts, they're willing to help fund, and so on and so forth. So you can look into all of these different places to see if your club or if your event is a fit for some of those funds. And if you're a fit, they're looking to spend funds that support their area. So just to keep that in mind. And then finally, just want to keep you updated. We right now, like I said, we are a very small office. Gabby is not on this list, but she is a huge part of our office. She doesn't meet directly, but I'm sure when you call, when you come in the office, Gabby's the first face you're gonna see. But these are our current office hours. So if you go onto our website, you can log in and try and see if any of our office hours are available. And that being said, I know we are right up against it, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I will really quickly, before you leave, try and give you a sign out sheet really quickly, share that with you, and then from there, I think that's really it. And like I said, you'll get a notification from us, just a quick survey to see if, let's see, give me 1 second, sorry. There we go. Does everybody see that? You can scan in, or you can, I'll see if I can put the link in the chat as well. That's all right, so that link is in the chat. So go ahead and check in, and then we will again send out a link almost immediately after this, and then I will send out the slideshow as well. Yes, and I know, thank you, Sarah. I know a lot of you, some of you have already checked in with me about negative balances. I sent that email out Thursday, so if you did get an email, it is legit, it is me. You can go on, just follow the instructions in the document, in the email that I sent, for the instructions on getting access to your account, and also the instructions of trying to make a plan for repayment of that account. If you've never used your account, and Sarah, that's a great question. If you've never used your account, I think some things, sometimes we have to, a lot of the charges that I saw were having to do with possibly ASA fines. So make sure that you stay up to date with ASA and their emails. Make sure you're attending those mandatory general board meetings, or you are doing your re-recognition processes. Those are the reasons, and probably more, but those are the reasons generally that ASA institutes those fines. So, and the fines are usually fairly small. So a good amount of the groups had balances of maybe $25 or a little bit more, maybe because you missed 2 years, so maybe 50, maybe you missed 4 years, maybe 100. So there are those little things. There's also the times where you may have thought you charged something to your funding account where you actually charge it to your main account, or vice versa. So those things can be looked at as well. We can move money from your main account to your funding account. But just kind of check in with it, see what the actual issue is. You can look at the transaction log in Atlas to kind of go back maybe a year or two to try and figure out where that negative balance came from. And I'm always here. I can go through it with you. We can go through that. And yes, Christina, if you've already checked in, you're all set. All right, and I think that's it. So we can hang around and answer some questions, but as far as having to be here, you are all set, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to do more of these throughout the year. And like I said, they're going to be very topical and very specific so that we can make sure that we meet all of your needs and meet you where you are. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.